Craig Wright serves Justice Miller the disqualification application. Miller rules on his own disqualification, says, I'm not biased. What are you talking about, Wright? Get the heck out of here. All right, let's break this whole thing down. Day 2 in the final, the contempt and sentencing of Dr. Craig Wright, which the court determined not to be Satoshi Nakamoto. Peculiarly so. And now they want to sentence him into jail. They want to put him away, lock him up, and throw away the key. And so he goes in and appears today. Yesterday, he completely ghosted the court. No show. No idea really. He had kind of explanations back and forth on email, but he didn't show. Today, he ends up coming in on a Zoom link and appeared to represent himself, not to testify. And he was found in contempt and then sentenced. And one of the key findings that Miller made today was that Wright showed no remorse. He showed absolutely no remorse. This is what Miller wrote. And that Wright did not in any way show the court that he felt bad for what he did and how he harmed BTC Core in filing off that passing off case. And it came down to the passing off case is what it was about. So the passing off case is what they wanted to get dismissed. And it's funny, yesterday that Jonathan Hoff actually mentioned that if Rice were to dismiss the passing off claim, they would actually dismiss the contempt and the sentence. They would vacate the sentencing. He wouldn't be facing jail time and sentencing if he would dismiss the passing off claim. I mean, now, did Wright actually know about that? He wasn't in court yesterday. I don't know, but I knew about it. I mean, I just freaking read the thing. I mean, so I imagine Wright's following along in some way because he could have just contacted the court, contacted the other side, and dismissed his passing off claim and not had to be risking potential jail time today. But you know what he did? He said, I don't care. I don't even care. I'm not backing down. And he didn't dismiss his case. And that's exactly what Miller found today, is that Wright showed no sign of remorse. He showed no sign of backing down. And they dismissed his passing off claim. Anyways, but they didn't say, he doesn't have to do jail time. He's going to basically be on a 2-year probationary period with a 1-year, it's a 2-year suspended sentence for a 1-year term. And as long as he pays $144,000 in fines or I guess it'll be sanctions or attorney's fees over to COPA for in the next 10 to 14 days, he doesn't break any laws, no traffic tickets, he doesn't sneeze, he doesn't get a handicap ticket, none of that stuff. If he yells at a person on a Zoom call, if he does anything wrong, they're going to take him into jail. Anything. Notably so, the hearing actually started with Miller looking and identifying a December 11th filing with an affidavit and a motion by Dr. Wright for the recusal of Miller. Affidavit of none other than yours truly. I actually wrote it myself, the whole thing. And I'm now proud, and honorable to say that Judge Miller wrote a nice 3 or 4 page decision about me inside the case. That was really kind of him. I'm very grateful. And it was actually pretty well, it was very detailed, incredibly well detailed. We broke it down in a space today in like excruciating detail. So I'm not going to go into the whole thing, but I'll summarize it. I'll post a link to the space as well so you could see a little preview on it. It's about 2.5 hours. We really went down the affidavit, exactly what was said by the Miller, and I show the affidavit on the screen. You can break the whole thing down. But ultimately, in summary, what happened is that Miller, I was presented all the facts and all the evidence as a person who had personal knowledge. First, I got a link from the court. So I had personal knowledge of watching the court case every single day and reporting on it to show that I actually watched it and reported on it. 2, I met with Mr. Pierce. We had personal meetings on 4 different occasions, those of which were published on YouTube. And on those occasions, he revealed some information about his conversations with Justice Miller and Adam Back and inner workings of the case that I didn't see a problem with at the time, but it wasn't until later that I found more information out that I revealed that it had an appearance of bias. So I had personal knowledge from that. Then I had personal knowledge about this petition that the group had, this petition from Change. 700 people wanted to have Justice Miller and Justice Arnold looked at for bias and investigated. That was taken down off the internet. So I mentioned that. I also mentioned the rulings that Justice Miller had made and the findings about not going to a COPA, saying he went to a COPA event And then he says he didn't go to then it wasn't a COPA event, it was a KIPA event, then it was a Union IP event. It was confusing, okay, from all the events that he'd gone to. I mentioned these, and there was a little bit muddy on the actual how many events he'd gone to, 3, 2, 4 events. Did he go to a COPA event? Did he go to a KIPA event? What events? So Miller then ruled on the affidavit of the disqualification, saying he never went to a COPA event. He never went to a KIPA event or a COPA KIPA event. But then he said earlier in the ruling, he did go to a KIPA event. So it's like, here's the problem. And it's up to Dr. Wright if he's his own attorney. So if whether or not he's going to challenge it or not, I don't know. Knowing him, he probably will. But ultimately, Miller had a duty, according to the local rules, to take the disqualification motion, and Miller's response, which was an answer, because Miller answered saying, I am not biased. I did not go to that COPA event. I deny going to a COPA event. That's what he said. That was a new fact that Miller ruled on. He didn't go to a COPA event. He denied going to a KIPA event / COPA event. And he denied any of the other allegations that were in the affidavit that I was basically my own words and my own personal knowledge that I had formulated as a reasonable person standard he's saying that it was exaggerated that he was found to be biased. Okay. And that's what he's making his own determination. But the error is Miller had a duty to bring that over to another court, bring it over to Judge Arnold over there at the Justice System or another judge down the hall and say, Judge, take a look at this. Am I biased or not? And the judge just says, no, you're not biased. Let me rubber stamp that. There you go. Move on. But instead, Miller just said, I'm not biased. I am sure I didn't go to this COPA event. I never went to a COPA event. The party? Isn't that a tribal issue? Did you go? Mr. Pierce said you went to a COPA event on the thing. Oh, that was an error. Okay, well, then let's get it cleared up by another judge, because that's what the report said. Ultimately, it's still a tribal issue. It should have been ruled on by another judge, whether it was minor or not. The appearance of bias was there, and we had 700 people sign. 700 people signed the petition. I got that into court of the evidence, and now he's ruled that he's not biased. I think it is potentially something that should have been brought to another judge, and it just looks even more sloppy and more of a justice system when the judge himself rules on his own disqualification and then goes forward with sentencing. Now, in Miller's defense, maybe it helped reduce Craig's sentencing because Craig didn't get jail time, because I think that was the objective yesterday. They had the court all hot, 100 degrees in the sauna yesterday, and the wigs and the whole, the outfits and the black robes and all that stuff, and they were ready to lock him up. Craig didn't show up. Today he shows up, technically on the Zoom link, but still he shows up, and they were in a different court, no clown outfits, no wigs. I heard there was no wigs from one person, no clown outfits, no robes. But then I heard another person there was wigs. I don't know. I don't think so I'm not sure whether there were or not. But ultimately it was definitely a different court, a whole different building. And it wasn't the actual jail court. I don't think they were going to be taking him away to jail today. Yesterday it looks like they might have been. I mean, it's confusing on how they're doing their little system over there. But what's not confusing is that Miller refused to send his own disqualification over to a neutral third-party judge. He ends up ruling on himself. Think about it. You're the judge. A party says, hey, judge, I have a very strong affidavit here. It's actually evidence. It's admissible. It's got everything, meets all the elements of an affidavit. I want you to, oh my gosh, these are facts. Oh, there's a new fact in here. This fact says that I had gone to a COPA event, and the judge says, I didn't go to a COPA event. I deny going to a COPA event. Huh. The link on the thing says that he went to a COPA event. Then another thing about KIPA events, there's pictures of him at the KIPA events. There's videos of him at this KIPA event. He says he didn't go to the KIPA event. So it got a little confusing and muddy. He said, either way, it should have been brought to another judge, and that judge should be looking at it saying, yep, this is bias. It's not bias. And then sign the order, then they go forward with the contempt. But Miller just went ahead and he acted like King Farouk over there. He's the king, and he gets to rule and decide when he's biased, when he's not biased, when he should be disqualified, when he's not to be disqualified, because Miller is in the justice system. Yeah. Where you don't get justice, you get just us. All right. that's my little summary on today's hearing. And it's hats off to Dr. Wright for being brave enough to not dismiss his claim. I mean, I can't say that for myself. I mean, think about it. If I'm going to be held in contempt, I'm going to be potentially going to jail tomorrow. All I got to do is dismiss my claim, my other suit. You think I'm not going to do that? I mean, I think we all went on a space yesterday and people were like, yeah, dude, Dr. Wright, dismiss your case. Throw it out. Don't go to jail over it. No, he said he made a decision to die on his sword, and it's going to cost him 144,000 pounds for one. So that's got to be paid. Two, he was at the verge of being, jailed, prisoned. He didn't care. He said when he did talk, all he talked was, you know what? I'm doing nothing other than scaling Bitcoin to the world, peer-to-peer cash for the world. Nothing's going to stop me. I don't care what you guys say. Nobody's going to stop me. I mean, that's basically what he said at the end. And of course, the other side said that's not relevant. He said, well, that's what I'm telling you I'm not doing. I'm not going to stop until we've scaled Bitcoin to everybody in the world and people can use peer-to-peer electronic cash. The space today was awesome, though. So I will put a link to it, the video. You can watch the full thing and break the whole thing down. My name is Gavin. I'll see you at the top.